I think this was sort of like the shock of everybody ya. Kayak ini local brand apaan sih? Kok tiba-tiba dia bisa buka in like the premium mall di lantai 2 gitu kayak nearly 100 square meters.
Was
Who are these guys?
was it Plaza Indonesia or
Yes,
Plaza
yes.
Indonesia?
Itu
Okay.
kayak orang agak kaget kayak
Yeah.
siapa sih? Who are these people gitu kan? And
Yeah.
then kayak tokonya gitu like KV and we were like sort of the first coming with that aesthetic gitu kan. Jadi kayak
Hey guys, welcome to our podcast. This is Matt, your host. Today we have a very special guest from MASSHIRO&Co, Kathy. Kathy, thank you for doing this.
thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. Let's start with the probably introductions lah mengenai MASSHIRO. Apa sih when you guys started it? I read a little bit I think you guys started from the idea of kenapa sih kalau beli baju warna putih cepat kusut dan cepat berubah warna.
Yes, correct.
So maybe you can tell a little bit more.
Yeah, so MASSHIRO&Co kita berdiri sejak Desember 2015. At that time, actually we founded it during the maternity leave. Jadi we I just gave birth to my first son and we were on maternity leave and had a lot of time untuk ngobrol-ngobrol gitu kan, kayak preparing to get back to work. And we realized kayak nanti pas balik kantor what we're gonna wear gitu kan. Of course, because the body changes, everything changes. And then we realized pas akhirnya juga kita mulai pondering about it kayak oh ya ujung-ujungnya I think we will wear the white shirt the most gitu
Yeah,
kan.
exactly.
Because the white shirt is such a staple item in the closet. Dari segi market size everybody has a white shirt gitu. Tapi when we started to really kayak talk about this, geek out on the white shirt, we realized bahwa kayak there are some characteristic yang potentially we could improve. Jadi kayak misalnya gimana caranya sih kemeja putihnya nggak cepet kuning. Terus gimana sih caranya kayak because new mom, right? Perlu kemejanya tuh lebar tapi flattering, ya kan? So that's a certain skill in the pattern, ya kan? And then dia perlu bahannya tuh adem tapi cepet kering juga, ya kan? Terus dia perlu gimana caranya itu misalnya she needs to pump or whatever itu perlu dibuka tutup tanpa dia lecek gitu. We geek out like
Checklistnya banyak.
yeah, auto deduct due diligence, learn about fabrics, ya kan? And then we figured kayak when we find things on the market and then coba, ya kan? And then we find this particular fabric composition that now we have continuously improved, yeah, and especially juga as we grew, kita udah bisa kerja with bigger mills and stuff like that. Tapi essentially in the beginning it was really kayak our own need sebenarnya, ya kan? Our own need, gimana caranya we go back to the workforce and look representable, tapi still be able to do sort of our maternal duty, ya kan? Which is sort of feeding the baby from far. Jadi it was a very humble beginning, ya kan? And then at some point when we found this and then our friends heard about it, terus mereka kayak, "Lo ngapain sih?" gitu. "Itu lo bikin apa sih?" gitu. "Kok kayak lucu?" gitu. "Gue mau dong coba." gitu. So it really started from word of mouth, ya kan? Spent nothing on marketing karena it was more just our friends kayak learning about this and then kayaknya gue juga perlu deh because we sort of all had kids at the same time the way it usually is, right?
And this was 2015.
This
I
was
mean, there
2015.
wasn't a Shopee, there wasn't
Nope.
TikTok or whatsoever. So
So it was like us going to the office. Ya dong, kayak lu mau, oke ya, I'll make it, ya kan. Produce 5, ya kan. Kayaknya kayak wah. And then of course the trick was don't make any size because when you have size you have a stock problem, right? So everything was like one size, gitu kan. All size. Jadi patternnya gimana caranya yang works well with one size, oversized, segala macam. So we just sort of like hustled through and then we found sort of this niche, right? That it was not just the nursing moms, but the ladies that needed to go really from morning to night, that needed to look representable for, dari mereka di kantor, and then at night they have an after working, they have a mixer, they want to go out, gitu, tinggal ganti sepatu, tinggal ganti celana, tinggal put on some accessories. So then we started thinking like, oh yeah, I think we could do this, we could slowly start developing this, gitu kan. But it started very, very humbly. And now, like now, a decade later, 10 years later, we still identify ourselves as workwear with a focus on shirting. That will always be our sort of, our core. Walaupun sekarang we do other things, like we do, outerwear, we do bottoms, ya kan. We do a lot more colors than just white. Tapi of course our classic colors are still white, navy, and black. We also do seasonal collections, designer collections, to have more apa ya, things to talk about
Yeah.
in the marketing, to be able to do events, to build the community, to have the trust. Tapi of course, our game from the very beginning has always been to be very consistent and to have a very clear focus on
Yeah.
what we actually provide to the market. And I think that built the trust over time. So as we expand into product categories, the trust is still building, I would say, for like bottoms and outerwear and everything, as we're still sort of learning to excel. But on the core category of shirting, I think now when people think kayak, oh, white shirt di Indonesia, kita udah mulai muncul lah,
Muncul.
ya kan, di
Yeah, of
benaknya
course.
gitu.
Of
Oh
course.
ya udahlah, beli Mashiro aja gitu.
How many co-founders?
Oh, there's the four of us. So during these maternity leave conversation, it was sort of like me and Deborah. We are in like one church group together. So we hung out. Our kids were born like 2-3 weeks apart.
Oh, wow.
And then, we were talking about it. And then at that time, Deborah had like this small business that she did with her sister making kaftan.
Kaftan.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I had the idea, but I didn't know how to do the production. I didn't know where to go in Tanah Abang. And if I go, harganya langsung 3 kali lipat. So then she was like, oh, let me help you. Let me help you. And then when we started having like the first protos and stuff, she was like, why don't we just do this together? Tapi ajak my sister. And then I said, okay, if you ajak your sister, I ajak my sister. My sister at that time was still working in the WHO in Geneva. And so I just called her, lo mau nggak nih invest? I have an investment opportunity. Terus dia kayak, apa lagi? Lo bikin apa lagi? Gitu kan. No, it's just this small kemeja putih. Ya oke lah gitu. I support gitu kan. So it's the four of us from the very beginning until now. And our roles have shifted many times. Tapi in terms of operations today, it's basically me and then with a professional team.
Got it. 10 years, yeah, gila. I mean, it's like in average, kayak, I mean, because Hypefast for the past 5 years, 4 years lah, we've talked to over 4,000 brands, right? Because like, we do investments. The average, like, median age for local brands in Indo is 2.1 years. Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, especially kayak ini semakin kesini, semakin pendek. Karena there is a lot of like, these brands yang, spiking up, but like terjun bebas quick as well, right? So maybe kayak, my question Kathy, is that you 10 years doing this, ketika you pertama ngelakuin hal ini, dan like, sekarang, what is the biggest like, gap between the expectations and reality as an entrepreneur ya? Dulu mungkin kayak, for me as example ya, for me, when I was like, working gitu kan, I was like, okay, let's do my own thing kayak gitu. I can go holidays like, with my family anytime and stuff. But turns out like, we actually do longer time compared to like, the professional life. Jadi, what was like, the biggest gap between the expectations and reality when you had this idea of jumping into the entrepreneurship?
I think, of course, Laya, the expectation of the flexibility of time, because my work was supporting entrepreneurs, I saw like, oh, enak juga ya, mereka jauh lebih flexible than me, ya kan, that have to show up to their offices and help them and sort of, so of course the expectation of time flexibility was definitely, ternyata nggak seperti itu.
Tidak seperti itu.
And then, of course, also I think, apa ya, in terms of what it actually means to scale and what it will take, ya kan, to scale, ya kan, the way bahwa, in one of the podcasts a while back, somebody asked me, kayak, what was the biggest mindset shift that you did from being a professional to an entrepreneur? In the beginning, I thought kayak, oh ya, my mindset kayak gue bisa lebih santai lah, gue bisa lebih gini lah. Tapi as soon as I realized that now we're in the scaling phase, I had to like immediately shift gears back into professionalism because otherwise I would lose it.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they would see me and then mereka akan santai juga. Karena gue santai juga. I come to the office whenever I want to come to the office.
Exactly.
It doesn't work, ya kan? So essentially, ya kan, ya, nggak ada sih ya. I'm running the way I would, go to the office.
Exactly.
I do things the way I did professionally. Cuman mungkin of course kayak now I have the privilege to say, you know what? I've shown you 2 times how to do this. The next meeting, you run it.
Yeah. And I think like if anything the shifting itu tuh lebih kayak ke at least like for me is a more pressure, no? I mean in
Mm,
a sense bahwa back in the professional's life, right? Okay, you did some mistakes or apa namanya at least like you don't have to think about like the next payroll
yeah.
and stuff. Right now, kayak you have what 100, I mean we have like 200 people here that it's precious that like
Yeah.
because the 200 people life is depends on you, right? And it's not an easy, it's not an easy
Yeah.
pressure. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's very cool. So let's kayak I think kayak you explain about like the idea dulu pertama kali muncul sih, but like from our earlier conversations I understand that like you did it as a side hustle before, only I think kayak back in 2021 you
Yeah.
do it as a full time. So
Yes.
what triggered that shifted?
Okay. So while selama kita did it as a side hustle, we did like bazaar occasionally every other month gitu. I remember the years di mana MASSHIRO&CO hidup dari 2 bazar per tahun itu. Literally, our whole cash flow lived off those 2 bazaar gitu kan. And then pas tiba-tiba pandemi datang, of course the first 3 months, I think March to June, kita juga like everybody else, we were so completely lost gitu kan. And then we wanted to help the factories that we were working with, so we also did kayak APD and everything, whatever we could,
Oh wow.
ya kan. And then, all the time di rumah we looked into the data, ya kan. And then kayak apa sih yang bisa kita buat gitu that would still be safe, ya kan. And that's actually during the pandemic, kita bener-bener build out kayak oke klasik kita nggak boleh cuman putih tapi harus juga hitam, sesimpel itu. And that's how we survived the pandemic. So the classic, the top 5, the top 10 itu bikin warna hitam, and the sales just just
Keep
rolled in,
going.
ya kan. And then suddenly in October 2020, one of our loyal customers, which was also the head leasing for one of the new malls that was supposed to open tapi udah delay terus, called me, Kat, lo harus bantu gue. Hah? Bantu gimana gitu kan? Gue harus buka nih mall and the lobby location is completely empty.
Oh wow.
And you have to come in and build like a temporary store. And I'm like, I have never run a store before. I have no idea. I don't have the systems. I don't have the people. I don't have anything. At that time, we were 5 people, including me. So basically 4 and me. And I was 8 months pregnant. Terus kayak with my third child, terus kayak, okay, gimana ya, tunggu, gue ngitung dulu. Okay. So then, start calculating. And then I said to her, okay, this is what I can do. And then dia kayak, ini gila banget, Kat. Ya, nggak apa-apa, this is all I can do.
This was when?
This was October 2020, in the middle of the
In the
pandemic.
middle of pandemic,
Ya
yeah.
kan? Tapi kan that's how it is, right? Usually opportunity comes in moments you never expect. Jadi
Exactly.
prepare aja, ya kan? So when that moment came, we had the production capacity, ya kan? And of course they were not doing anything karena kan all the orders came down.
Yeah.
So our orders aman-aman banget kan.
Uh,
So then of course we had the opportunity, we just didn't know how to do this now. We had to learn, ya kan, very, very fast. So they made us build like the pop-up store for like 10 days. Kita punya waktu untuk build that pop-up store. Then kita buka, in that 10 days, it was complete chaos.
in the middle of pandemic.
In the middle of the pandemic, then I had 5 team members. I lost 1 in the process of the opening. Karena stress banget kan. Kayak, we had to learn everything dari scratch basically kan. Kayak figure out Shopify POS system and blah, blah, blah gitu kan. Everything. Built out the new team. Tapi yaudah, then the store was open. And I think that was the moment. It was November 11th, 2020. And that was the moment of no return. Kind of the moment the retail store opened, we realized bahwa the customer really appreciated the fact that they could touch the fabric and they could try. Yeah, they could try it on. And it helped to justify our more premium price point because kan memang our price point is not that cheap.
Betul.
Ya kan? We call it value for money lah.
Yeah.
Ya kan? So the moment we had that offline retail, that was the moment di mana kayak, okay, I think we've hit the moment of no return. Ya kan? My partners, the prior years, mereka udah bilang kayak, ini udah bagus banget, kayak bright spot tahun 2019 lah atau apa. You should resign, no lah, ya kan? But when that a retail store opened, I immediately told my boss, like after 2 weeks, kayak, I think I need to find a replacement for myself, ya kan? Because I think I need to go in. And I was due juga kan in December. So in that whole time, ya udah we shifted January kita masuk. I went in full time. And benar-benar in 2021 August, we opened the first flagship store in
This is
Plaza.
not the island. This is not a
No,
pop-up. This is a
this
permanent
was yes,
store.
and I think this was sort of like the shock of everybody ya. Kayak ini local brand apaan sih? Kok tiba-tiba dia bisa buka in like the premium mall di lantai 2 gitu, kayak nearly 100 square meters.
Was
Who are these guys?
was it Plaza Indonesia?
Yes,
Plaza
yes.
Indonesia.
Itu
Okay.
kayak orang agak kaget kayak,
Yeah.
siapa sih? Who are these people gitu kan? And then kayak tokonya gitu, like KV, and we were like sort of the first coming with that aesthetic gitu kan. Jadi kayak, what are these people? Kayak semuanya warnanya sama, terus bajunya kemeja doang gitu. How does this work gitu kan?
Gila.
Tapi ya that was sort of bener-bener the moment kayak ya udah nggak bisa sih do it, nggak fokus lagi gitu kan.
Those thrilling experiences yang you had, during the businesses, is it something that addictive to you atau is it something that kayak aduh gua nggak mau lagi deh kayak gitu. Boleh nggak kita plan better aja kayak
I think from that experience I realized kayak walaupun mungkin gua orangnya I'm very used to handling a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. Karena kan, I mean, from my previous job, I was always like solo runner lah, do this, do that, do everything gitu, palu gada gitu. Tapi I noticed bahwa I cannot impose that kind of stress on other people and expect them to operate like I do. Right. So then I said, okay, my goal is when I open the flagship store, I'm not going to lose a team member. I'm not going to lose a teammate. Okay. And we succeeded. Ya kan? Kayak the moment we opened the flagship store, which was only like 6 bulan, yeah, sort of 8 months difference, yeah. It was much smoother. SOP-nya udah jauh lebih jelas dan apa segala macam. Of course, once I was able to hire the real retail people, mereka kayak abruk-abruk lagi semuanya kan. Kayak, no, this is not how retail works. But at least kayak it was much better prepared, much better planned. So no, ya kan. I think when you roll with a team, nggak bisa sih, ya kan. When you roll by yourself, can, right? But with a team, no.
Yeah, exactly. The 10 years you're doing this, Cat, udah pasti gue yakin banget kalau lo bilang nggak ada bosennya sama sekali,
Nggak mungkin ya.
nggak mungkin. Udah pasti karena like the thing about like the new I call like the new entrepreneurs generation is actually building a long term businesses it takes time.
Yeah.
Jadi I think tadi we touch a bit as well kayak terlalu banyak sekarang with all this media socials and everything people thinks that bangun bisnis tuh kayak bangun candi bahwa you can actually can have a overnight success and it's a very dangerous mindset ya karena this is like can trigger a lot of apa namanya unnecessary instant decisions yang akan di regret later kayak gitu kan dan jadi consistency matters here
Yeah,
kayak gitu kan.
consistency matters.
Jadi I think kayak my questions to you is during those 10 years udah pasti ada bosan-bosannya kayak gitu udah pasti bahwa kayak aduh
Another white shirt, ya kan? Can you imagine?
ini lagi, aduh kayak ketemu timnya gitu-gitu lagi dan segala macam. What like, what did you do untuk apa ya, nge-overtake that and bring back that energy untuk bilang bahwa oh I can build it in the next. I mean I can build this business for the next like 20 years or so.
That's a very good question. Kayak I think to me is of course the vision continues to grow, right? As we achieve certain milestones, the vision grows. And I think as long as you still have that vision and that vision is growing and you have people believing in it, kaya it's very easy to recharge when you're drained. Kind of the moment you start talking about it again and then there is resonance
Betul.
from the leadership, you start feeling I'm not alone in this and we can keep on going because there is this energy that sort of feeds off everyone, right? Tapi of course, I also implement and I always tell my team kaya we have to have a spirit of excellence in what we do. And the spirit of excellence shows bahwa we're not easily pleased with our results, ya kan? Jadi kayak misalnya there's a lot of our styles that we just reorder because they keep on selling out and yep, that thank goodness gitu kan.
Yeah,
it's
it's good.
selling really well. But I always challenge them, okay, you want me to approve this PO. Now I ask you, what improvement did you make? this style that we've produced so many times, can you give me one improvement for this PO? Yeah, and whether it is the position of the kanching, even it's like 1 millimeter, but in the picture, it makes a difference. Or it is the positioning of kaitan celananya, but when you wear it, it gives a different sense of comfort, gitu kan? Okay, when you can become that passionate and because you believe in the vision, karena you see it. Yeah, and you feel that your team sees it. And once you have that energy, yeah, sebenarnya even on the worst days, I come into the office, I'm very low energy, but then I see them and then they come to me like, "Bu, I'm changing this like this." And you see, it looks totally different. And you're there, you're charged, right? And I think to build that culture, to build that spirit of excellence, to give them context of the little things that they do mean so much in the bigger picture of what we're building. I think that's how you keep on going, right? It takes a village. You cannot do it by yourself. Ya kan? I mean, you can cast the vision, tapi I always tell them, all I do is I cast the vision and I set a framework. Lu yang isi. What do you see? Yeah. What do you think we can improve? Because you're the one doing that day in, day out, not me. Ya kan? Jadi I need you to isi this. Gimana caranya? Gitu kan? So we do this together and they have ownership. They believe in the product. Mereka juga sendiri nggak bosan. Karena you have to imagine kayak, if you go into a MASSHIRO store dari berapa tahun yang lalu, you will find the same product again. And everybody
Same color, same
ini,
product.
ini si ini ya, kemeja lu yang ini ya, gitu. Kayak, but why does it still work? And kalau misalnya emang kayak if you were to geek out and like compare all the versions of all the years gitu, itu kayak 2-3 kali setahun it has an improvement. Some people notice, some people don't. They just feel kayak lebih enak ya, udah lebih enak ya. It could be the fabric, it could be the buttons, it could be the interlining, it could be the way we make the hemline, it could be little things, ya kan? Tapi I think that level of excellence and passion, it cannot just be you karena capek.
Benar.
But
Benar.
once it's the team, it's a totally different experience.
And then I hope that the 10 years kayak, I mean, the visions grew, tapi you also grew with the business.
Yes, of course, dong.
Yeah, dong. Yeah. And that's like, the most important things. Yeah. Karena I feel like, at least like, for me personally, yeah, yes, I'm grateful untuk semua experience yang gue belajar pada saat I was, working full time
Yeah.
kayak gitu ya. But comparing like, those years with the entrepreneurs, like, period journey is a completely different level
Yeah.
ya, in so many ways kayak gitu ya. And I think grew-nya tuh nggak cuma mengenai, ya, you punya sense of businesses, you punya ini segala macam, tapi like your mentality as well. Karena you need to like, have a steel mentality to actually run a business. I mean, we survived the pandemic and
Yeah.
it was unprecedented pandemic, especially for fashion businesses kayak gila. I mean, you needed to do whatever it takes to actually survive kayak gitu ya. Then it was very interesting. Let's touch a bit like, on the, you guys punya relationship dynamic between the team, between the co-founders. Do you guys fight a lot between the co-founders?
Wow, yeah, kan, what a question. Well, I must say, and I always say this, partnership is not easy.
Betul.
Ya kan? And in our case, of course, kayak because it started as a side hustle, none of us ever imagined bisa sampai ke sini. Ya kan? Of course, based on my kayak back on the envelope calculation, my market size of a white shirt is very big. Tapi even I myself did not believe, ya kan, bahwa kayak kita bisa sampai ke sini. And it keeps on growing. Kayak every time we hit a milestone, kita pikir kayak ya udah gitu kan. Tapi then it keeps on growing, the vision keeps on growing. So of course there is fighting, and of course there is disagreements. There's disagreements about the speed we should go. There is disagreements about where we should put our investments. Ya kan? There is disagreements about how the team should be built. Ya kan? Because from my background, I immediately said we need to build the team professionally.
Betul.
Yeah, and we have to pay them what they're worth. We have to do this, we have to do that. But of course, it shows on the bottom line. If you want to pay people what they're worth,
Exactly.
dividends not segendut itu ya, gitu. But if you want to build a team yang properly, ya harus proper ya. There's no other way gitu kan.
You build for long term lah.
Yeah, you build for the long term. But I think in everything, and I think probably this was sort of the hardest over the 10 years, was to learn how to become a person that can listen to others, that can empathize, try to understand when you cannot understand.
Yes, yes, true. So
Um,
true.
and and it hurts and it's difficult and it's hard, ya kan? Kaya on top of all the pressure of having to make the operational decisions, ya kan? Tapi I think kaya as a person, yeah, I would say kaya I grew a lot. There's still so much, of course, on my to-do list that I can do so much better, ya kan? Where I'm saying to myself, kaya, okay, this is sort of my own self-improvement plan
Betul.
to be a better partner, ya kan?
Yeah,
To be a
yeah.
better leader. Tapi ya, partnership is not for the faint of
It's
heart,
not.
ya.
It's definitely not. I think kayak apa namanya, there's a lot of like, things, right? So I'm a solo founder, right? Jadi I don't have a co-founder.
Okay.
So, but like, I think it has a pro and cons, right? The solo founders, I think journey is also not an easy
Yeah.
because lu nggak ada teman sharing
You
dan segala
carry it all
macam,
yourself.
things, right? But and I think like the biggest at least like for me the toughest is as you building the businesses, Kat, is that I think at some point, at some point, you always brainwash with this. Oh, you need to actually put business first on top of yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay, the priorities needs to be there. Okay, cuman like when things getting a bit like longer and stuff, you start to actually ask questions about okay, until when,
Yeah.
atau until what life,
Yeah.
okay, gitu. You need to actually put business first before. And that's like natural way of asking questions by
Yeah.
everyone's that has been putting blood and sweat into the
Yeah.
businesses gitu. And then
Yeah.
I think itu aja sih yang dan makanya gue selalu kayak bilang for every single brand founders yang I met like to actually assess whether we invest atau enggak. My first questions to them adalah kayak, are you for the past 5 years you've been building this? Do you think that you can do it for the next 20 years? Karena if the questions is not sure or yeah, I mean I can do it, but I also once here and there let's
Yeah.
have a proper questions,
Yeah.
right? Karena we need to
Yeah.
align
Yeah.
the expectations,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
But can I touch base a little bit on what you said? Because I think that I also went sort of through that struggle, right? Of like, yeah, what goes first, you or the business, yeah, kan? And then kaya, how does it work? And I think what I sort of learned, and maybe this is also helpful for the others, is, my spiritual leader, he always says, kaya, when the leader stops growing, the organization stops
uh,
growing.
yeah,
So you have to take care of you.
betul,
You are the first person you lead. Ya kan? It's you. Jadi kayak if you don't grow because you're so wiped out and you give everything to the business, sebenarnya itu jadi bisnisnya mandek.
betul,
You have to give enough to the business, but you have to have time for yourself to grow. Gimana caranya gitu
betul,
kan?
betul.
So that the business can grow. So that's one thing that was difficult for me at first. Karena kayak gue anaknya kayak go all out, go all out. Gitu. A, B, C, D, E, everything, let's do it gitu kan.
No,
Dari hitung inventory, do the system, do everything gitu kan. But I had to learn gimana caranya to dedicate time for myself to learn, whether it's just to sit and read, to not show up at the office because I'm reading, I'm learning, I'm doing something, I'm meeting somebody, I'm having a conversation with somebody else to refresh my own head, gitu kan. But then also, I think the second thing that one of my prior bosses, they always say this, and they always ask this to the entrepreneurs that we were investing in, is where is your identity, right? Is your identity in the business? Or is the identity kaya, yeah, Kat as Kat as a, wife and a mom, as you have a business, you are a business owner, but you are also, a girl that likes to read and ride and do sports. And what is your identity? Where is it? Where is your anchor? Karena
betul.
kalau your anchor is in the business kan naik turun ya, dan itu normal loh.
Normal banget.
Dan lunya juga naik turun gitu kan. Which is kayak you are meant to have like a stability so that when the business goes up and down, lo bisa sustain. Kalau nggak lu juga kayak gejolak gitu
Betul,
kan.
betul, betul.
So, and for me at the beginning kayak I was like, what gitu? Apa sih maksudnya gitu? I never understood when I was still working karena I didn't have to live that life ya kan. I was a professional kayak ya udah, their business goes up, goes down. Of course, it pressures me. Tapi kan now when it's your own and you have to pay all these people and, oh my goodness, I made that decision and it was not that great, gitu kan. How do you live with that pressure when you feel like the success of the business is your success and the failure of the business is your failure? You
Exactly.
cannot put it apart. It's very, very heavy on the mental drain sih.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. It was actually like, my mom yang ngasih apa namanya advices bahwa like all like this happiness is you have options, right? Bahwa you can actually like put a burst of energy. Jadi kayak lo abis-abisan banget all out dan segala macam. But at some points like this is going to be like running out. And
Yeah.
what happened is that like after you're running out, like lu akan kesannya tuh terlalu maksa untuk be that very positive person. And this like maksa being very positive and stuff for your employee, for organizations, because I mean gimana pun caranya on business you need to actually like at some point, I mean there's several moments that you need to actually put a poker face kayak oh gila harus dong gitu kan. Tapi kalau misalnya it's actually not very sustainable, then it's actually draining you punya energy, and it's not good in the long terms. Then
Yeah.
you're gonna be burned out. Then I think like we've seen so many entrepreneurs like burn
Yeah.
out,
Yeah, that's true.
and it's not a very good example for the new generations of entrepreneurs, and it's not sustainable.
Yeah,
Kar-
absolutely. I
And
totally agree. Kayak jadinya ngoyo gitu kan.
jadinya kayak lo gimana caranya kalau misalnya ini if like you're in it, you wanna like build the next like 20 years of the businesses, the sustainability angle it cannot be like just about the financials. It's not cannot like just about the efficiency of the businesses, but it's also like about you
Mm,
as the founders, as the CEO and
yeah.
outside of us, right? No, very interesting. Kathy, like, so what's next for you? Like, what's next for your brand?
So
What excites you now?
yeah, what excites us now? So we have like a lot of things that we want to do. So, now, of course, this is our celebration year, like a decade in MASSHIRO&Co. So this year is very special to us. We kicked off this year with the reopening of our new flagship store, Di Plaza Senayan.
Mm.
So that's also another 100 square meter store. It's really beautiful. It's the first store that actually has a dedicated men's section.
Oh,
Because
wow.
when we started out, we did women's wear, ya kan? And in 2021, December, we started menswear, because when we learned about sort of the characteristic of how men buy, it's a very, very good market for, basic, that like us, gitu ya. So now we have this dedicated space for men so that when men go into our store, they don't feel kaya they're shopping in a women's store, ya kan? So it's very important. So of course, then basically this whole year, kita started off also with a designer collection, sama Peggy Hartanto. Now we're going to go into our spring summer. We're going to have, a very first apa ya, trial mini capsule in the summertime that we didn't have before, kaya a mini collection just to see how the, customer responds to this, like a pre-holiday collection. But then, of course, going into Q3, Q4, end of Q3, start of Q4 is basically benar-benar the celebration months leading up to December, right? Where, we're planning to have more marketing activations and be a bit more, mungkin louder, yeah, more heard. Because Mashiro is fairly kalem lah ya in its marketing. We're very, kita bukan yang berisik gitu brandnya, tapi most likely by the end of this year, kita akan lebih build up lah the momentum and to celebrate these 10 years and launch what will be the initiative for what is hopefully the next 10 years. Because I think we've done a lot of learning as well with regional expansions. We had a buyer from Singapore. We tested, we tried, we did different things. And I think we realized what needed to be adjusted in order to be able to play regional and hopefully one day international.
I mean,
So I think this is what we're probably going to, introduce by the end of the year.
nice.
And then potentially, hopefully next year, the focus will be more on expansion, actually.
Awesome. No, sounds good. I think like that will keep you busy for next like
Yes,
3 years for
absolutely.
sure.
Udah pasti. Walaupun what I'm trying to do is actually I'm trying to make sure that it's more the team executing. Jadi it's not like me focused, Kaya, I mean, I'm holding the vision together with my founders and with my partners. Tapi of course, we want to make sure bahwa all the execution is done by professional in the industry, because also I'm not a
Yeah.
industry professional, right? My background has always been more business development,
Yeah.
that stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited and I'm really proud of how far the team has come.
Nice.
But I'm also really expectant of how far they can go, gitu kan?
Put a little bit of pressure is okay.
Of course, healthy pressure.
Let's discuss about this. Okay, I think the most the one of the hottest topic right now and the global kayak gitu is the sustainable fashions,
Yeah.
right? What is like your view on this and how apa namanya your brands adapting into this? Karena kayak sekarang udah banyak banget ya.
Yeah.
Walaupun I think kayak I feel like the Indonesia market albeit less what is the nice word saying less care about it for now kayak gitu, but masih belum terlalu aware,
conscious, yeah.
yeah, conscious, right? But I think like at some point we need to actually start
Yeah.
as well, right? Karena
Yeah.
that's like always how we adapt, how we innovate and stuff. So what is your view?
So from the very beginning, when we did MASSHIRO&Co, we always said we will always choose the more sustainable option if given the choice. Yeah, and of course, lah, when you start small, capital is so constrained, you cannot do everything. You want to do everything, nggak akan mungkin bisa, gitu kan. And memang our brand promise of tidak lecek, easy care, it is something that resonates very closely to the characteristics of polyester, right? So people always say, yeah, tapi kalau lu beli itu, lu beli polyester dong ya, but you don't know that all the other things you beli itu juga ada polyester, ya kan? But for us, it's like, at least kalau lu beli MASSHIRO, lu pakai for the next 3 years, ya kan? Lu cuci lagi, lu cuci ulang, lu apa segala macam, lu beli satu, it can last. Now, if you buy a different brand, ya kan, kayak different pricing, whatever, lu cuci 3 kali juga lu udah harus beli baru. So sustainability is not just material. Walaupun dari MASSHIRO&Co since 2019, we did also have a collaboration with Tencel Lensing from Austria, kayak untuk work through biodegradable fabrics and apa segala macam. Tapi it's a different and it's a long game kan untuk get the fabric to where the customer expects it, to work together with the mills, for the mills also to learn what is the finishing, what is the blah blah blah, to get there. But I think to me, kayak misalnya, if I can change the packaging, why not I change the packaging dulu, ya kan? If I can change bahwa di MASSHIRO&Co nggak usah lah terlalu banyak embel-embel plastik, then I do that, gitu kan? Kalau misalnya, for now, dari forever sih, our communication strategy has always been kayak, buy it if you can wear it like many ways, with many things, if the versatility fits for you, gitu. If you can only think of one way to wear it, maybe don't. Kecuali, of course, it's a dress and it's an occasion wear, yeah. Tapi for daily wear, you ought to think about kayak, okay, I'm gonna buy the shirt and gue bisa pakai jeans, I can wear, shorts, I can wear like, dress pants, I can wear whatever. And I think it's also the buying behavior, the consumerism behavior that's really fueling this extreme waste, gitu kan? Because based on research, you only wear 20% of what you have in your wardrobe.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to fill that 20% with things that actually matter and you actually want to wear. Yeah. Maksudnya pas lu buka, kayak okay lah, gue udah gak usah banyak mikir, gue pakai aja ini.
Benar.
Because I know it will make me look representable, it will last throughout the whole day, and I'm gonna be fine, gitu kan. Not to say that we're not going to incorporate more sustainable materials, tapi mungkin for now, our focus lebih kepada behaviornya, and lebih kepada kayak, okay, embel-embel packagingnya, gitu kan. And the way we communicate in our marketing, gitu. Walaupun, in my opinion, for the next 10 years, there is no going around the fact bahwa you have to have a sustainability angle in terms of the fabric juga ya. And of course, that's a commitment dari segi kita juga. But how fast is menurut, in my honest opinion, because the customer is not yet conscious, the winner is he who will be able to convert them without them even knowing. Jadi the quality has to be just like as if itu masih polyester, right?
Benar, benar.
Jadi kayak gimana caranya lu bisa mendapatkan itu gitu
Ya,
kan?
ya, ya.
Because right now kayak of course all the polyester is also recycled polyester and everything gitu. Sebenarnya udah banyak banget advancement di situ juga that we are using juga. But I think because level of consciousness-nya masih low, kayak misalnya when we put kayak, oh this is tencel material, enggak saya nggak suka because dia terlalu lecek atau dia terlalu ini atau dia terlalu itu, saya maunya yang begini gitu kan. So as a business, you also have to think about kayak, if I change this, what will it mean for my bottom line right now? Ya
Betul.
kan? Sustainability cannot be sustainable for just its sake. Ya kan? Sustainability has to be like a core part of the overall strategy and harus sabar gitu.
Benar.
Tapi as long as you're committed and you slowly build it out, in my opinion, everybody eventually harus bisa sih.
Yeah,
All of
exactly.
us have to bisa.
I think like, I mean, you take steps, whatever that like you can take, right? It doesn't have to be like gila, oh, no pressure banget sampai harus oh, mahal the bottom line is it's not sustainable for the businesses and it's actually counterproductive kayak jadinya.
Ya, atau jadinya mahal banget, nobody can afford.
Exactly, jadi
Ya kan?
counterproductive banget dan like, it's affecting the business gitu.
Iya.
Which is aneh banget kan. So yeah, so I think that, but like okay, enough about the business. One last questions from me
Okay.
kayak gitu. How you balance antara being
Okay.
a mom, being a wife, being the full-time entrepreneurs now?
Yes.
Like
Balance is a good question.
like really, karena I think a lot of nih, don't get me wrong in the sense though, I feel like kalau setiap kali like we're doing this, we're talking to the brand founders ya. Every single like the brands yang bringing to the IC table kayak gitu kan, and if it's a mom gitu ya, I'm actually like given extra points in the sense bahwa I feel like bahwa they have a much stronger mentalities and time management compared to like anyone else. Jadi like usually for me if there is a mom entrepreneurs atau brand founders bring to the IC table, like I tendency untuk actually go into the next step with
Yeah.
them higher daripada like
Oh yeah?
bener,
So it's actually a plus point.
it's a plus point to be very honest with you. Karena I mean I can imagine how difficult things, right? Kayak banyak banget yang harus diurus. Jadi for me like that's something yang even like me I cannot do it, right? Sometimes kayak gitu. Jadi kayak how you
I think nomor satu adalah I think my biggest mungkin like success factor is probably my husband, ya kan? Jadi kayak the fact that I was fortunate enough to find somebody as supportive as him, who is in the journey together with me, ya kan, and who is willing to kayak okay, also pick up, ya kan, because many times I cannot be 50%, many times I'm 20%, he's 80%, sometimes I'm 30%, he's 70%, but then there are also moments where I'm 70% and he's 30%, but we're a team, right?
Yeah.
So take one for the team, and it's hard. Tapi balik lagi kan, that is the most important relationship, ya kan? That is basically the foundation lah, gitu kan, of every, in my opinion, success story. And then, of course, once kita udah sepakat, and of course, sometimes it's like, it feels very transactional kan. Okay, this is my calendar, that is your calendar. Kayak, I need help here, where do you need help, gitu kan. Tapi then next is, of course, the kids' calendar. Itu dulu, ya kan. Before we can go into the office calendar, and I mean, everybody in the office udah tahu, I just block things off. I cannot do this, I cannot do this, I cannot do that, gitu. Jadi, if this has to be me, then it has to be a different day. Tapi if it can be somebody else, go for it. Please go for it, gitu kan. Tapi once the home calendar, the personal calendar is set, and of course, I'm much lacking di situ juga ya. Nggak bisa bilang bahwa kayak, I'm the mom you will see all the time in the schools. No, ya kan. Kadang-kadang gue juga diejek kayak, wah lu datang, gitu. Walaupun I'm there most mornings, tapi not all mornings, and school pickup super difficult di tengah-tengah kerja, ya kan? But I mean, I just take it. Ya udah, it's okay because it's true. I can't, right? So you cannot just like be this winner here, winner there, gitu. Nggak ada
And
lah.
you cannot
Ya kan?
please everyone as well.
So it's nggak mungkin in my opinion, ya kan? Tapi at least when it matters, you're there, gitu kan? And then of course I have this very understanding team, Liana helps me a lot with the scheduling. So mereka ngatur aja kayak, okay, this is also the time when I work out, which is sacred, ya kan? Don't ganggu. on the workout days,
Yeah.
ya kan? Because nggak bisa, your body will fall
Eh,
apart. You have to
eh,
take your supplements. You have to be healthy, because when you're not healthy, you've got nothing to give, ya kan? So that's, sort of the family, your own health, your own sanity, and then I
business.
have, yeah, and then I have, my dedicated times when I have my sort of, group meetings with like the friends, that I share the faith with, and they just strengthen you, you don't really talk about work, but you just talk about life, and you just talk about draining stuff yang
Support,
kayak,
supporting
support,
ecosystem.
ya kan?
Yeah.
And then baru kayak, okay, then you can work, ya kan? And then I already said to them, to my team juga kayak, I really don't like when people show up to work unprepared, because I don't show up to work unprepared. Ya kan? Our time, and at MASSHIRO, we don't work like long hours yang crazy gitu, enggak.
Yeah.
I said from the very beginning, kayak we work 9 to 6.
Yeah.
Jadi, because the time is very limited, when you come to a meeting and you're unprepared, yeah, you
Is it?
can make sure, I will say something, yeah, because our time is so little.
Betul, and it's not fair for everyone.
Yeah, because everybody else wants to leave at 6.
Betul.
Ya kan? Jadi kayak the only way we can leave at 6 is if that 30 minutes and that 1 hour itu kita pakai dengan the best way we possibly can, which is we've done all of our preparations, ya kan? Kalau enggak kayak, never mind lah, I was in this meeting gitu kan. Ngapain gitu.
Benar,
So I think kayak balance is a lot about priority to me, ya. And for sure, like, yeah, family first, health first, and then comes the business. And I think, yeah, you cannot show up your best self lah kalau prioritasnya juga nggak bener kan. I mean, I'm sure you do it similar juga
Of course,
kan.
yeah, of course. I think kayak at this point, I think after second year of building the businesses, gue udah kayak at this stage where gue menerima bahwa I cannot please everyone.
No.
When you came into that acceptance, itu tuh much easier to navigating,
Yeah.
gitu kan. Karena you need to, you have your own priorities
Yeah.
jadinya, kayak gitu, and you decide your own priorities
Yeah.
instead of like relying on what people said about it.
And I think di Indonesia yang bikin susah is actually the family, right? The extended family. That's why I said the most important relationship is the husband, ya.
Yeah.
Karena kayak, I mean, I will get, komentar-komentar from
Roasted.
mom or from mom-in-law, they will say something gitu kan, karena they don't like this, they don't like that, tapi ya udah, as long as my husband chill aja, ya udah gitu kan.
What matters, right? Yeah.
Nggak bisa, you have to set kayak, okay, I cannot please you, I'm sorry. I cannot gitu. Walaupun of course I have to say kayak they're a huge support system to me juga ya gitu. Kalau nggak I wouldn't be able. Tapi kadang-kadang emang harus ya udah terima aja.
Terima aja. What can you say about
It
it?
keeps you humble, Masih bisa diomelin, ya kan? Masih bisa ditegur. Harus bisa.
Ya, harus bisa menerima.
Harus bisa menerima.
No, awesome. Thank you. That's Kathy for MASSHIRO&Co. Thank you so much for doing this
Thank
again.
you so much.
We're going back with the next, founders by next week. Keep fun. Thank you. Bye.